Well, 'tis the season, Blake.
For
prospects.
We
talk prospects because the World Junior Hockey Championship is upon us, less than a week away here in Sweden. And a pretty interesting tournament this year, given how so many people are down on Canada, think that the U.S. and Sweden might be better teams. Joining us to talk about all of that and about the Abbotsford Canucks and who's doing well and pushing from the farm is Canucks prospect writer for Canucks Army, Mr. Dave Hall. Dave, Merry Christmas. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. How you guys doing?
Fantastic. Looking forward to the holiday. Of course, looking forward to this fabulous Christmas tradition, the World Junior Hockey Championships.
Always.
We got Macklin Celebrini and his brother Aiden coming up on a show next week. First thing I want to ask you about is what I just mentioned there. This Canadian team. Why are so many people down on this Canadian team, Dave?
Well, it's just not as star powered as some of the other ones. It's also, a little bit younger than some of the other ones, especially, considering Sweden, just the amount of 19-year-olds they have, especially in their forward group, and just such an experienced group that I think that was the big thing. And just, when you got guys like Connor Bedard coming in last year and all that stuff, there's just, all that star power. They just don't really have that one guy that's just going to blow the tournament away. So I think that kind of changes everything. But, the addition of Matthew Portress just kind of throws a whole nother wrench into this whole thing. So although you don't want to say one guy's going to make or break the entire thing, I definitely do think they're a little bit better than they were last week. So.
Curious to see what kind of impact as great an impact as he has had at the NHL level this year. That was surprise. So now as he regresses, if you will, back to his contemporaries, is he going to be dominant? I mean, I'm a little bit curious as to what that looks like.
Well, I just think he'll add a little bit more, just a little bit more spunk to the lineup. He kind of brings that dynamic game, and I think he'll get into the corners and kind of play that rough and tough kind of game. So I just think he adds just a bit of a dynamic and a lot of experience, right? I mean, you love the NHL experience in there.
It would be unfair to put any kind of Bedardian expectations on Macklin Celebrini or any Canadian player in this tournament. That said, Macklin's a Vancouver kid who is all but assured to be the first overall pick in next year's draft. Dave, what are your expectations for him as a 17-year-old in this tournament, especially given what he's doing as a 17-year-old in NCAA hockey?
Yeah. So I mean, he's kind of the face of this whole team. He's 17, but he doesn't play like he's 17, to be quite honest. He's just such a responsible player on both ends, and he's got some flash to him. He can shoot, he can pass, his IQ is off the charts. So, by all accounts, I think he's going to be the face of this team, and I think he's going to have quite the hell of a tournament, if I'm being honest.
Is he going to play down the middle, do you think, or do you think they maybe try him in both spots?
Well, so far they've tried him down the middle. He seems to have found some nice chemistry with Fraser Mitten and Jordan Dumais down there already. So we'll see how it goes. They do have quite a few options that they can put at the slot. So we'll see how it goes. I do see them running with it to start, and if things fail, then they'll switch it up. But
what for those who haven't seen him yet, Dave, what kind of a player? Describe Macklin Celebrini's game.
Well, he's kind of one of those tough ones because everyone now wants to just compare him to Connor Bedard. He's not quite Connor Bedard. He's somewhere between Connor Bedard and Adam Fantilli. And I think that's actually a perfect description. He's got the Connor Bedard offense where he's just dynamic. He's exciting. He just makes plays that you just don't see on the screen. And then he's also got that kind of bite and, just that offense or that two-way game that you see from Adam Fantilli. So I just think overall, he might not be that generational, 1C that's going to just off the charts 100 points every season. But at the same time, he's just kind of got everything. He's just kind of the mixed tool bag that can bring everything. So I just think overall, you're kind of just getting the complete package, and, sky's the limit with him.
Yeah. Moving on to Team Sweden, or is it Team Vancouver? Three Canucks prospects on the Swedish World Junior outfit. First rounder Jonathan Lekkerimäki, who I understand has some pretty good real estate in the pre-tournament games on the top line. Tom Willander, first round pick from last year, playing on the second pair. And then Elias Pettersson, the defenseman, EPD, who's a returning player for them. Tell us a little bit about where these guys fit on the Swedish team, and everybody seems to like the home team here to win the tournament. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. BC's kind of torn right now. They don't know Team Canada, Team Sweden. We'll see. But yeah, no, obviously, as expected, Lekkerimäki jumps right in his spot on the top line, top unit power play. He was a little quiet yesterday in his exhibition game, a little more quieter than I kind of hoped for and anticipated. But with that said, going forward, he's going to be their go-to option. And just the both Sweden and USA as well with the development program is that they just have so much experience together. They've all played together for so long, and so he'll be on that top line with Noah Usland at the center position. And then on the wing, it's either going to be Anton Wahlberg, who he's had so much experience with, even just a couple weeks ago at the Five Nations tournament, or Liam Ogren, who they played together in Dewgarden. So I just think no matter what, the chemistry is going to be there. And they're just so skilled that I think they're going to be pretty dominant. We'll see how it goes. And then obviously with Lekkerimäki on the power play, that's kind of his bread and butter. He's going to be posted up on the half wall there, doing his usual shot. So considering the firepower that they have getting in the puck, I don't see why he wouldn't dominate this one.
It's time for Lekkerimäki to dominate, though, isn't it?
It is.
It's time for him to assert, like, he has been through this rodeo a few times. This isn't going to be, there shouldn't be anyway, nerves on this stage. This is the stage that he's suitable to dominate on. I'll be disappointed if he isn't a top 5 scorer in this tournament, honestly.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, and I think that is one thing that's gonna, all eyes are gonna be on him, and I'm sure he knows it too. Like you said, this is the time for him to shine, and at this point, there's no real excuse. He's healthy, he's confident, he's showing everything he can at the SHL level, and people have been hyping him up. Like, if for guys like me or Chris Faber and everyone else who's been watching him almost on a game-to-game basis, he really does look like a completely different player, and we've been saying that, and we've been kind of fighting people on that, trying to show people, and so this is kind of his time to show people what he's been working on. So you are right. If it doesn't pan out, then we got an issue.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, it's played on the bigger ice surface over in Sweden, so that should be a benefit to him as well. If he can get over the PTSD of last year in the tournament and the fact that he was stapled towards the end. But here's the other thing, Dave, and a word of caution. We all learned the Ole Ulevi lesson. Don't read too much into this tournament, right?
Yeah.
Like if Lekkerimäki goes out and doesn't dominate, are we concerned at that point, or do we chalk it up as
to me, that's for the middling prospect? For the guys that you have expectation on, Dave, isn't it fair to expect these guys to rise to the occasion? Again, third time through the tournament, they have to be men of the moment at some point, don't they? I mean, it's akin to the playoffs and saying we don't judge them on the playoffs. We do judge guys on the playoffs.
Totally. And it also, like I kind of already mentioned, he's also been playing in the SHL and doing pretty well. So if he was still at the J20 level, then yeah, maybe, he hasn't really done that much going. But now that we've seen what he can do at the SHL level against men, I'm kind of in agreement where there's not much excuse. I do agree with both of you, actually. Like, yeah, you don't want to place too much stock on the tournament, but in Lekkerimäki's case, he's a 19-year-old, third time through. He should be dominating, or at least being, showing up and standing out every game.
What are your expectations for Tom Willander on defense, Dave?
Well, kind of the exact opposite. I think he is one player that is going to play well, but I think we also need to remember that it looks like he's not going to be getting power play time. We obviously knew that with Axel Standin Palika. He was probably going to be the guy, but he was out of yesterday's lineup and he still didn't get a look on the power play. So I think it's probably safe to say that Willander is not going to be on that PP. You never know what happens, but I still think he's going to be a really fun prospect to watch over the tournament. He's going to be he's kind of in his element, playing in that big ice, as you referred to, and he's just such a fun skater that I think he's going to thrive. But I also think you should probably temper expectations on expecting a Lane Hudson type of performance here. But by all accounts, he should be a good player in the tournament for sure.
What have you seen of him at Boston University, Dave? How do you think he's working out there through his first 15 games?
I think he's been good. I do know that there's a couple graphs that show him he hasn't been playing very well defensively and whatnot. And I actually was kind of surprised to see that. I actually thought he's looked pretty damn good on defense. He's a really active stick, and his impeccable skating just kind of allows him to close that gap really quick. And so there are some things that you obviously his transition game has kind of lacked. You can tell that he's adjusting to the smaller ice and the less time and all that, but overall, I've been pretty happy with his game, to be honest. He's excited me. by all accounts.
Speaking of Lane Hudson's team, 2-3 weeks ago, we found out Hunter Brustevich isn't going to the tournament at all, and yet he's just ripped it up continuously over those 3 weeks to the point where at the break now, the junior, he's leading the OHL again in overall scoring.
Yeah.
Is this still burning in your stomach that he's not there, or have you gotten over it?
I mean, yeah, it is what it is. I mean, you just kind of feel bad for the player, right? Because this is his last opportunity to do it. And, you know, when he made the move, he probably understood that that was probably something that he was giving up. But at the same time, I mean, I just don't think when you see the players who they brought in replacement, they're kind of just lesser versions of Hunter Brustevich. So it's just overall just a big slight on the whole thing. And I think it was the second game since he had been cut. He actually scored a goal, and he gave a nice dab in his celebration there. And I feel like that's a bit of a shot. So I don't know. He might say that he's not feeling it, but I think he's probably still a little sour.
I'm sorry, Dave. You said he dabbed?
Yeah, he did. I actually didn't.
Okay.
Yeah,
2016.
I was gonna say, is Cam Newton there with him?
Yeah, exactly. Apparently, the kids are still doing it.
Apparently, yes. Some of us never started.
That kid, anyway.
On the Canucks, Dave, and look, we were just talking before we started recording here. Like, the defense core is pretty solid now. I mean, you got Carson Soucy coming back in a couple of weeks. Noah Jolson has played basically a quarter of the season now consecutively for them, and yet it's the forward lines that are a little more in flux. We're seeing different guys get scratched, and of course, searching for solutions in the top six to be a scorer. Now, I'm not sure there's anybody in Abbotsford that could be a solution as a scorer in the top six, but who knows? Maybe Höglander, maybe Suter wind up sticking there, and then the Canucks are looking for just help on the wing or at forward, period. Who stood out to you? Who would you say, as we sit here nearly half the season in, who's been the best forwards in Abbotsford and why?
Well, I think it's kind of a bit of a loaded question because I think there's a few players that have done some nice things all at different times. I think everyone has kind of seen their struggles. Like even Arshdeep Bains, who just lit the league on fire in his first 10 games, has dropped off a bit, at least offensively. I think he has 6 points in his last 12 games. So, you know, it's definitely not happening like it was in September and October for him. And, you know, obviously the easy answer would probably be what everyone wants to hear is Vasily Podkolzin. But even obviously he was doing great things before the injury, but since his return, he's got 1 goal, not a lack of effort. He leads the team in shots since his return with 40 shots, but he just hasn't been able to fill the net like he was before. And he's still just getting his game back. And obviously Rutherford made his rounds last week in the media circuit, and he made it pretty clear that, you know, they have a plan for him and they're probably going to be sticking to it. So I just think as of right now, you could probably just count Vasily Podkolzin out of that mix. You know, we've seen Linus Karlsson already come up, and so I think he's probably an easy answer just to kind of say he's an easy call up. He kind of plays Tocchet's game. I'm sure he likes what he sees. He's a hard worker, can chip in with some offense from here and there. But my bet is still on Arshdeep Bains. You know, he's dropped off offensively, but he kind of just brings everything that he's a Tocchet type player. He brings speed. He works hard every shift. You don't have to worry about that. He can pinch in with some offense. So at this point, I just don't see why you're not just going to give him an opportunity at least to see what he's got, kind of like they did with Karlsson up there, and just see what he could do. Because overall, he's got everything that Rick Tocchet's going to like.
If they give up on PDG, if they feel like they want to try something, like could he be a 4th line player at the NHL level? I mean, we've heard good things about his work ethic and his ability to muck it up a little bit at times as well. Could you see him in a 4th line role?
Absolutely.
Vancouver?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what you're going to ask him to play, somewhere between a 3rd and 4th role play. And that's why, you know, with Vasily Podkolzin or even an Atu Ratu, you know, you don't want to throw in these kids that you're throwing in for a project and hoping that Tocchet will like him, and then they're kind of like, you know, going back and forth trying to figure out where they are in the NHL. With Arshdeep Bains, you can plug in on that 4th line and you know he's going to be delivering that kind of game. So I just think it's at this point, rather than fooling around with a couple of opportunities. The Canucks don't need help. You know, they're doing all the right things right now. So they don't need scoring. They don't need a project. We want those prospects, those high-touted prospects to develop. Let's let them develop in Abbotsford, and let's get Arshdeep Bains and let's see what he can do. I've been saying this since the very beginning, though. So.
Yeah. No, you have. You've long been on the train there, Team Arshdeep, Dave Hall of Canucks Army. And thank you for your help on the World Juniors. Look forward to watching that. Hey, have a Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, buddy. We'll catch up in 2024.
Holidays. Yeah, Merry Christmas, guys.
This great clip brought to you by, wait for it, Great Clips. It's going to be great.